Hello. And just as a reminder, the meeting will be recorded and uploaded so that you will be able to view it again. And if you miss it, you're unable to maybe stick through the whole session. It will be available for you to view. So you should have been presented with, I don't know, some kind of dialog box that asks you whether you agree to be recorded. You're not obligated to stay in a session that is being recorded. So attendance, that's part of the reason why attendance is optional. Yeah, so good. I think my neighbor stopped her landscaping. So that's a positive sign. We don't have to try and cope with all of the extra noise. Let me see. Okay, so let's get started. Hope you had a great weekend. I was very excited about the start of the NFL season. My New York Football Giants didn't do as well as I had hoped, but they're looking good. Hopefully we're headed in a positive direction. I don't know, we'll see. Anyways, so this week we are starting yet another chapter. So we are just cruising along here. We are starting chapter 5, which means this Sunday is a big day because we will have a lot of stuff due. We'll have chapters 1, 2, and 3 due. Obviously, we are skipping chapter 4, and we are going right to chapter 5. And so chapter 5 will be due this week as well on Sunday. And then moving forward, all of the assignments will be due on Sunday that week. So whatever chapter, each week we start a new chapter, and the assignments associated with that chapter will be due on Sunday of that week. Does anyone have any questions about assignments or problems or issues? Hopefully we've worked out all of the issues. Does anyone have any questions about that or anything they want to bring up?
Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Let me see. Wait, hopefully I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, like, I still haven't received my textbook, and I'm not sure why. And I mean, I really hope I get it before the 20th, but, you know, if there is anyone else like me in this situation, can we just, like, keep you updated on what's going on our end, or is it just, like, a super, I know you already extended it, but, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, I don't know what their issues are with shipping. You're going to have to contact them about it. They will be able to better inform you on the status of your textbook. But I did get them to offer the free trial again. So it is imperative at this point for you to sign up for the free trial. So this way you can begin working on all of your assignments. And you can do that by just logging into Blackboard, clicking on any of the assignments that are there, and you'll go through a registration process with them. And after the registration, they will offer you a free trial. And I believe that offer also stands for those whose free trials have expired. So I would urge you, I mean, it's imperative at this point that you do that you register for Connect, take advantage of the online trial. It only lasts for 2 weeks. So you want to get in touch with them and make sure that they will have your textbook to you within that 2-week window. So we don't have to deal with this problem again. But yeah, definitely keep me informed. If you have any problems registering for the free trial or whatever, definitely let me know.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Professor, I also have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
In regards to the midterm, I noticed that the Connect material and the PowerPoints slightly differ just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be more focused on the the PowerPoints, or the Connect homework, or a combination?
Yeah, so great question. And let me clarify. So the quizzes that you take each week as part of your list of assignments, those were developed by the textbook company.
Okay.
So they're going to quiz you specifically on the chapter readings, and there's going to be a lot of information in the chapter that I just won't cover in my lectures. So for the weekly quizzes, you'll need to rely on the actual textbook readings. But for the midterm and final, I will only ask you questions on stuff that we covered in the actual lecture. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. But yeah, so when you're studying for your midterm, you want to focus on the lectures, because that's the only material I will test you on.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Professor, I have a follow-up with the previous question.
Yeah.
So on the syllabus does October 6th, that's still the set date for the midterm, right?
The midterm dates have not changed.
Okay, because I was having issues with other classes that midterms were being changed around, so I just wanted to make sure that this one was still the same.
Yeah, so as of right now, we are set to take the midterm on the date in the syllabus. That has not changed. The only thing that's changed is some of the due dates for these early assignments. And of course, if there's a change, if there's a problem, I'll let you know.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So did we skip chapter 3 and 4 is a question in the chat. We did not skip chapter 3. Chapter 3 deals with the environment and stakeholders versus shareholders. So that chapter we covered, you'll be responsible for that. Chapter 4, we skipped entirely. So you're not going to have to do that at all. There'll be no assignments related to that. It will not come up in Blackboard. Yeah, so you have no assignments related to chapter 4 that you can skip. Okay, any other questions? Okay, good. I think that's it. And of course, if you have any other questions that you think of, you can chime in, but also you can always send me an email, of course. So, all right, so this week we are doing chapter 5. The topic for this week is planning, which is an important function of management. But before we get to that, this came up in my feed, my news feed this week. And this was a topic that we covered last week. So as you recall, last week we talked about what is the responsibility of managers and organizations, who are they responsible to, who are they accountable to, and we contrasted and compared 2 different viewpoints on this. And one viewpoint is that you are responsible to shareholders only. That is your only responsibility as a manager or as a company, to those who own the company. And that was compared against the stakeholder view, which is the idea that you are actually accountable to a lot more people than that. You're accountable to all of the people that your business has an impact on. And all of those people, we categorize them as stakeholders. Stakeholders obviously includes shareholders, but it's not just shareholders. It's shareholders and customers and suppliers, distributors, the environment, etc. So anyway, so there was this article that I put up here. It was in Fortune magazine, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it was about Milton Friedman's position. So Milton Friedman is the one who sort of expressed or argued for or advocated for the shareholder view that companies, that their only social responsibility is to the actual shareholders of the company. So they're only responsible to the owners. And Milton Friedman, 50 years ago, this is the 50th anniversary of, I guess, his public declaration of this idea. He wrote an article in the Times, in the New York Times, about this, declaring that this is the only responsibility of companies. So this is going back to 1970. And so this article reflects on that viewpoint and how that viewpoint is essentially dead, that companies now take a stakeholder view. That is the expectation. This is something that I sort of emphasized last week, that is the expectation of businesses and management, to take a stakeholder view. However, it's not easy to do, right? Because stakeholders are going to have conflicting interests. The interests of shareholders are often at odds with the interest of other stakeholders, like, let's say, the employees. And so one of the things that I brought up is that it's going to be a challenge, and it's not always clear how you can serve all of your stakeholder interests. And I introduced the idea of a worker cooperative as one way of sort of resolving that. And the idea is that you have to create systemic changes to the economic system in order to better align all of the interests of the stakeholders. And so that's what this this article in Fortune sort of gets at. They said basically, yeah, you know, companies take a stakeholder view, but it's difficult for them to do that. And often they don't, because they're under enormous pressure by their shareholders to only take a shareholder view, right? The shareholders only want these companies to maximize their own wealth. And so that means maximizing their profits. And so what they suggest is that in order to get companies to actually, in practice, take a stakeholder view, that the laws or the system has to change. And they said even regulations are not quite enough. And so a regulation would just be a law that the government passes that requires companies to do something, let's say that requires them to be more responsible for the environment, as an example. And so they suggest an idea for as a way of getting actual companies to align with the stakeholder view. And that is by requiring all companies that have revenues of over $1 billion to become what's known as public benefit corporations. And a public benefit corporation is a type of corporation that has all of these legal obligations to each of its stakeholders. And so in this way, every company is on a level playing field, and they all have the same obligations. So so if some of these obligations incur an expense, right, in order to generate a competitive advantage or increase shareholder wealth, the management may be encouraged by shareholders not to incur that expense and to avoid, serving that stakeholder interest and not taking this sort of stakeholder approach. And so if you have laws in place that require every company to act in that way, it's a way to sort of get companies or require companies to take that stakeholder view. So I don't know, so I put this slide up here. I thought it was interesting, and it's one way of actually, getting companies to force them, to require them to take a stakeholder view. So the link is on the bottom here if you're interested in reading that article. I think it's interesting. So I put it there in our slides, and I'll be available to you when you download the slides. Okay, so moving on to today. So today we are going to begin the planning function. So we'll talk about that.
Professor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick question. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Just to be sure, this lecture is gonna be posted on Blackboard, right?
That is correct. Yeah. So it'll be recorded and it will be available. All of the lectures from here on out will be available to view on Blackboard.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the planning function of management, and as part of planning, the role that strategic management plays, and the mission, vision, and value statements. So if you recall all the way back in week 1, which is now several weeks ago, we're just moving along. I don't know, time flies. When I was preparing these slides, I was like, wow, we're already into like the 4th week. But anyways, so if you recall in week 1, we defined what management is, and as part of that definition, what the textbook suggested is that there are 4 major functions that managers must perform. And the 4 are listed here on the slide. So planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. And then the textbook is really like organized around those 4 functions. And so the previous couple of chapters that we've dealt with are really just like an introduction, provides a foundation for the practice of management. But now we're really getting into the actual practice of management and what managers actually do. And the first of those functions is planning. And planning is all about setting goals and figuring out how you're going to achieve those goals. And so, as you see here in this slide, a planning is defined, as involving setting goals and then deciding how you're going to achieve them. And also, and we'll get more into this as we move along, all of these plans that are put together need to be linked to a business strategy so that there is an overall coherence to what the company is actually doing. And there's a couple of more definitions that were introduced in your textbook that I will sort of highlight here. The main idea is that you're setting goals and figuring out how to achieve those goals, but also planning, they say, is coping with uncertainty by formulating future courses of action to achieve specified results. And that the plan is an actual document that outlines how the goals are going to be met. And currently, with the pandemic, we are in an environment that is demanding every company, every organization to really embrace the planning process. And so planning has been such an important function now with the pandemic, and for organizations to decide how they're actually going to operate in this kind of environment with having to cope with the virus. And so, even Baruch College, is engaged in lots of planning activities. They're trying to figure out how it is that they're going to respond. And obviously they decided that they're not going to have classes on campus, right? That was a massive change, right? They went from an on-campus university to literally within a couple of weeks to an online university, right? And so if you think about, all of those changes that needed to be made at every level of the organization, Baruch College is a massive organization. It's huge. And so that was really the result of a massive planning process by the administration. So the managers at every level were heavily involved in generating plans so that they can really reinvent the entire university, and they did it in the span of a couple of weeks. And now there was actually an email that just recently went out. They have a whole planning committee, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to sort of reopen the university and what reopening looks like. And so they've actually produced a whole planning document that outlines some of the goals that they want to meet and how they want to achieve them. So planning right now is like an activity that is front and center on every business manager's mind in figuring out how they're going to take the massive steps necessary to change their company in order for them to conduct business during a pandemic. Examples that they give in the textbook, obviously the textbook was written before the pandemic, but a typical plan that almost every company will have, even the smallest of companies, is a business plan. And a business plan is a document that outlines a proposed firm's goals, the strategy for achieving them, and then the standards for measuring success. In the actual second part of this lecture, so in the pre-recorded lecture, I'll talk about what makes up, like a lot of this is sort of common sense. Yeah, you want to plan for things, and you know, you want to set goals, and then you want to figure out how you want to going to achieve those goals. I mean, this is something that we do in everyday life, right? Outside of our work as managers. But the profession of management has really sort of systematized this whole process, and they've looked at what goals are more effective than others. So what I'll go over is an example of the kind of goal that has been proven to be more effective than other types of goals. And so it's called a SMART goal. And so I'll talk about what goes into actually making a SMART goal. But a business plan is an example of a document that you're going to create, even if you're just an entrepreneur, a single person operation, and you're starting a tiny company. You need some sort of document that expresses what it is that you're trying to achieve, and how you're actually going to achieve it. And then the strategy it's a large scale, I mean, they define it as a large scale action plan that sets the long-term goals and direction for an organization. And this is what's done by upper management. And it's sort of like a broad, what they call an educated guess about what must be done to meet your objectives in the long term. And strategic plans are reconsidered every year due to ever-changing business conditions. And so in the current pandemic environment, strategic plans that companies had in place are all being changed, right? The conditions over this past year were very different than the conditions in the prior years, and it required companies to rethink their strategies in how they are going to conduct their business. So strategic management then is the process that involves managers from all parts of the organization in formulating and implementing the strategies and strategic goals that were established for the company. And it goes through every level of management, from top management to middle management, you know, down to the line managers. And so this strategy, this very sort of broad strategy that a company adopts, right, as sort of like a beginning point, a starting point for the direction that a company is going to head, that strategy is derived from an organization's mission and vision. And so when you create a company, what you want to do is you want to establish what a company's actual vision and mission is. And it's from these two ideas that everything else follows. And so these are sort of the ultimate signposts as to how your organization is going to conduct business, what direction they're going to head, the kinds of culture that they want to create for their brand, etc. It's going to define everything about the actual company process. And we're going to get more into that after this slide. But really, this sort of like summarizes the whole process of strategic management, which is you're going to establish the mission and the vision and the value statements. We'll get into all three of those things. And so it'll be clear what each of those three things, those three statements are. But it begins with establishing the company's mission, vision, and values. And from there, right, you use that to sort of assess the reality that you are working within. And you're going to use that in guiding you in how you're going to formulate sort of like the grand strategy of the company. And that grand strategy will determine tactical and operational plans. And so the grand strategy is going to be sort of formulated by upper management, and I'll have a slide that makes this clearer and more explicit, but your grand strategy will be formulated by upper management who relays those plans down to middle management. They will sort of undertake the tactical plans, and then that will be relayed down to line managers who will implement operational plans. So there's different kinds of plans for different levels of the organization. And then overall, that is how the process works in implementing a particular strategy for a company. And so, you know, why do you got to do this? Why do you got to have plans? Why do you need strategic management? Why is all of this important? And there are three reasons that the textbook gives, and I think these are good sort of starting points for why a company is going to want to adopt a strategic management approach. And so these are the three reasons are listed here: provide direction and momentum, encourage new ideas, and develop a sustainable competitive advantage. And we'll go through each of these separately. And so the first one is providing direction and momentum. And basically, so my work as a professor, part of my professional responsibilities is to teach a course. And so for this semester, I have to teach 2 courses. But my sort of performance is ultimately measured by the amount of research that I conduct, right? And so that is really what my future sort of progress as a professor is gauged by. It's how much research am I doing? And research is very difficult, right? I constantly have to come up with new research ideas, topics that haven't been studied yet. Then I have to figure out ways of generating data for that. And that's sort of very difficult work, but that's the kind of work I need to do to move my career forward. And if I don't do that work, I'm not going to progress in my career. And so when you look at the day-to-day work that I do, often that sort of big picture stuff of figuring out a new direction for like my research and figuring out new ways to collect data can be put to the side, right? Because I have a lot of day-to-day work that I have to do. Part of it is, you know, teaching this course, right? Making sure that I'm responding to emails, you know, making sure the slides look good. So staying on top of, you know, making sure that the students are doing their assignments and, you know, tending to any issues that they may have in completing their assignments. These are like what they would call putting out the fires, right? I could spend all day doing that, and I could spend every day doing that, right? And that kind of work is very easy for me to do, but none of that work is going to sort of push me forward, right? And so it's very easy for me to sort of slip in this, sort of element where all I am doing is just putting out fires, answering emails, correcting PowerPoints, right? Fixing issues with Connects, making the next set of slides, but my career is not at all progressing. And so the idea is that I need a plan in place, right? And this is something that I do with the department and with the senior researchers, right? We are always carving out a plan for where I should be heading as a researcher. And that makes me sort of accountable, and we'll get into the specifics on the different mechanisms that make sure I'm moving forward. But the basic point here is that what that plan is going to do is it's going to provide the sort of direction and momentum to make sure that I am moving forward in my career rather than stagnating by just doing sort of the day-to-day work to keep up the status quo. And so this logic can be applied to any company, right? You want to be moving forward as a company. You don't want to just service your existing clients and making sure they're happy with their existing products. You want to see where the future is headed within your industry and think about where you want to be in that future, and whether the industry is leaving you behind, whether you're leading the industry. So you always need this sort of plan in place in order to maintain your momentum. So plans are imperative, and it provides sort of that direction and momentum that you need to prevent you from stagnating. The other thing it does is it encourages new ideas, right? And so when I plan out, and this is a process that I go through with the management department, I'm talking through my current research ideas, right? And so that planning process is going to encourage new ideas. I don't know if you're Apple, right? It's easy to just sort of rest on the success of the iPhone. But if you do that long enough, the industry is going to leave you behind. And the tech industry in particular is the kind of industry that is rapidly changing. I mean, I would argue that there's rapid change in all industries, but in particular with the products and services that are offered to consumers within the tech industry, they're constantly changing. And so if they're not planning for what they're going to do in the future, they're going to be left behind, right? And there's tons of very successful tech companies that didn't do a great job in planning for the future and have been left behind, like Nokia. I mean, Nokia was one of the leading cell phone makers, and they no longer are. And so business is ruthless. Competition, the marketplace is ruthless, and they will quickly leave you behind if you are not generating new ideas to move your company forward. So a plan is another way of generating new ideas. And so that's the second reason why you want to plan. The third reason why you want to plan and develop a strategy is so that you can develop a sustainable competitive advantage. And this is necessary, obviously, for you to do well as a business. You need to outperform the competition. And if you're not outperforming your competition, then customers are going to select those competitors over yourself, right? And so they list here, in order to generate a competitive advantage, you need to do better than your competition in each of these four categories. And so they list in being responsive to customers, in innovating, in quality, so making sure that there aren't errors in delivering or manufacturing your product or service, and in effectiveness, right? So you want to do what you say you want to do what your company says it will do. And in general, you want to meet the expectations of your customers. And so this is what a strategy accomplishes. And these are the things you need to be mindful of when you're at sort of the upper level of management. And so before we move on to the mission, vision, and values, is there any questions about planning in general and using a plan to generate a strategy? Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is pretty straightforward. So the question is, where are these strategies derived from? And a best practice is to establish a mission, vision, and value statement for your company. And this will be sort of the ultimate guiding document for your organization, for your company. And particularly with mission and vision, it's often not clear what the distinction is and what they're trying to achieve. So hopefully I can sort of clarify this for you, and we'll go through a couple of examples to illustrate sort of the differences. But in your textbook, they describe a mission statement as expressing the purpose of the organization. So your mission statement will express what the purpose of your organization is and like what its reason for being is. Why are we here, right? That's what the mission statement is going to achieve. Whereas the vision statement, they define as providing a clear sense of the future and the actions needed to get there. So what is it that you want to become? Where do you want to go? And in value statements, I think it's much easier to understand what a value statement is, but values are what the company stands for, right? It's core priorities, the values its employees embody, what its products contribute to the world. And so the value statement will emphasize the values that the company finds important. As I read the textbook, it wasn't all that clear what the distinction between, and I know that students generally have difficulty in figuring out the difference between mission and vision. I think companies often confuse this as well. So the distinction is not all that clear, I think, among practicing managers and among companies, even, I guess, within textbooks and scholars within management. But I found a description within, when I was reading the Harvard Business Review, that talked about these kinds of ideas. And I thought that the way they described it was helpful in better understanding the difference between mission and vision. And so the mission statement describes what the business organization is in, and what business the organization's in and what it's not in. And you want to do that for both now and projecting into the future. So you don't want your mission statement to be limited in any way. You don't want Apple's mission statement to say it's in the business of making cell phones, right? That would be way too limiting. And that would, wouldn't be the kind of mission statement that allows you to project into the future. And so an example here, and if you were a consulting company, an example mission statement might be, we're in the business of providing high standard assistance on performance assessment to middle and senior managers in medium to large firms in the finance industry, right? So it's very clear, what mission this consulting company is serving. And it describes, what business the organization is in. And then the vision statement is what the organization wishes to be like, right? In, some point in the future. That's, it's what the company is striving toward. And they highlighted in this article that the vision statement needs to be clear and you want it to be memorable. at the end of the day, these documents need to be inspiring to some degree, right? Because it's really part of the founding documents of your company, and it's going to provide the direction toward which your company is going to head. So there's really nothing more important than these initial ideas, right? And so to create the right kind of company, culture, organizations, you want it to inspire people to head in a particular direction. And so an example of a vision statement that they gave, and this would be the vision statement of, let's say, a communications company, and their vision statement, I think this is the vision statement of Ericsson, which is a European company, communications company. And their vision statement is the prime driver in an all communicating world, right? And so, again, what this is accomplishing is what this company wishes to be like. What it wishes to be like is the prime driver, right? That's sort of the key. In an all communicating world, and obviously that is sort of the inspiring part of it, that they can, be an important part of an important member of society, contribute in sort of meaningful ways. Okay, so we're going to get into more specifics on the different missions, visions, and value statements. But to sort of put all of this together, I think that this graphic is really helpful to sort of give you the big picture of how these different components that we just covered fit together, right? And so it begins with the mission statement. What is our reason for being? What business are you in? The mission statement has to be linked to your vision statement. And your vision statement is going to describe what it is that your company wants to become. This also has to be linked to your value statement, right? These are part of a cohesive set of documents that describe your company and set the direction that it is going to head. The value statement, what values do we want to emphasize? And all of that, right, that picture that those three founding documents create will determine your strategic planning. And your strategic planning is done by top managers, so the upper levels of the executive team will establish the strategic planning, and those kinds of plans look at the company and what the company should be doing over the next, let's say, 1 to 5 years, right? So it's very broad, it's very general. It looks at where your industry is heading. It tries to lead within that industry, and it's going to look at as many as 5 years. So the time horizon on those kinds of plans can be as long as 5 years. But they're not going to be any shorter than 1 year. You want to maintain a sort of long-term time horizon. So like if you were Apple, let's say, you are currently doing well in cell phones, but cell phones are not going to last forever. You don't want to be the next Nokia. And so part of their strategy was looking at other ways in which they can better perform as a company. And what they decided to do is that, this phone is sort of a piece of you that you take with you as a regular part of your ongoing day, right? And what other pieces of technology can this company have you take with you as regular parts of your ongoing day? And so they got into the wearables business, right? And so not only do you want to have your phone with you all day long, every day as a piece of technology, but now you want a watch. And I'm not wearing my watch. I don't have, I haven't bought into the whole iPhone ecosystem, by the way. I'm more Android. Anyways, but I do have a smartwatch. And so that's, you know, the decision to get into smartwatches and earbuds, right? These are just, this was part of their strategic planning to get into wearables as a way of expanding their business and not just resting on the success of the status quo by, you know, continuing with the success of their cell phone business. And, you know, the wearables is doing really well. But if they are, you know, if you are part of the executive team at Apple today, you need to be looking, you know, 5 years further out. And I think if you were part of that team, one of the things that you might be discussing is expanding on that wearable line. And I think the next place for these technologies to go perhaps is into, let's say, augmented reality. So people will be wearing eyeglasses, and this your eyeglasses, just like your watch and your earbuds, will have technology built into it. I mean, ultimately, it'll enable you to see graphic elements that were generated by a computer in your field of view. I think, so these are the things that you'll be thinking about. I mean, the technology is not quite there yet for this to hit the mainstream, but these are the ways in which you'll be thinking at a strategic level. After the strategic level is tactical planning, and these are done by middle managers, and that the tactical plans carried out by middle managers will be connected to the strategic plan, right? And so if you're looking to expand into the wearables market, right, then your middle managers will need to plan over the next 6 to 24 months how it is it's going to achieve that, right? And so they want to maybe do an assessment of the state of technology, you know, where the state of, is it advanced enough so that they can get into that business where it could, you know, reach a mass market. And those are the kinds of decisions that they will be making. And if they get into that line of business, who, you know, what kinds of suppliers do they need to line up, et cetera. And then those tactical plans done by middle managers will sort of direct the operational planning. And the operational planning is done by your first line managers, and they are looking at either a weekly or, you know, up to maybe 52 weeks time horizon. And so they're the ones who are actually carrying out the daily tasks, right? And so these would be, you know, once you finally get into this new wearable market, they will be setting up a plan for actually, you know, how you're going to sell them, right? What will the salespeople in the stores actually be saying in order to, you know, sell these products to customers that walk in? What is the actual return policy, right? Return policies are not going to be established by upper level executives, right? These are, will be carried out by your operational plans and by your line managers. And so you can see how all of this is sort of connected. It starts at the very top with your mission, vision, and value statements that will direct your strategy. Your strategy will direct your tactical planning, and your tactical planning will direct your operational planning as well. So is there any questions on each of those parts, how they all fit together? We're going to end with some examples of some of these mission statements and vision statements. So you're all clear on what those distinctions are. So I don't think it is sort of very clear, but anyways, does anyone have any questions up until this point? Okay. All right, so we're all clear now on what the strategy for Apple is too, right? I think they need to expand their wearables line. It's all tech companies. I think this is what they should be thinking about. And they should be thinking about AR. I think that is the future. Okay, so if there's no questions, we will move on and we will end with this. And so we'll just sort of go through a couple of examples of mission statements and vision statements. So here is the mission statement of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, as you all know, is a hugely successful company. It's massive, it's worldwide. I don't know what their value is. I mean, it generates billions and billions and billions of dollars in profits. And so it's massive. So they're doing something right. And their mission statement, they say, is their roadmap, which is enduring. And it declares their purpose as a company and serves as the standard against which they weigh their actions and their decisions. So everything is measured against this mission statement. And what their mission statement says is they want to refresh the world, to inspire moments of optimism and happiness, and to create value and make a difference. So that is Coca-Cola's mission. And here is their vision statement. Their vision statement is, our vision serves as the framework for our roadmap and guides every aspect of our business by describing what we need to accomplish in order to continue achieving sustainable quality growth. And then they actually mention all the different areas in which they need to do that, right? So people, be a great place to work where people are inspired to be the best they can. Portfolio, bring to the world a portfolio of quality beverage brands that anticipate and satisfy people's desires and needs, etc. Right? They also emphasize here, so if you look at what they emphasize in their vision statement, so they do talk about people, and they're talking about employees when they refer to people. So what they find important is the people that work for them, not just their products, also their partners, the planet, right? Profit maximization. Obviously, every company is going to be interested in profit maximization, every for-profit company, and productivity. So embedded within this vision statement is explicitly that they are adopting more of a stakeholder approach. Right, so that's something that I noticed when I looked through their vision statement. And then their values. This is what a value statement looks like. And that should not say vision statement, that should say value statement. I will correct that. Our values serve as a compass for our actions and describe how we behave in the world. And so values are part of the elements that drive behavior in people. So values is something that's important and you should be aware of and pay attention to and be conscious in adopting. But so here they list what their values are: leadership, collaboration, integrity, accountability, passion, diversity, equality. I mean, as a practical note, I would say that whenever you're interviewing at a company, you're looking to get a job, you need to know what their values are. So that's the kind of research that you want to do before you go on an interview, because this is really what sort of distinguishes that company from the others, and in particular from the competition. And this really establishes the culture in which you will work, and upper management. By the way, before I finish that thought, so value statements, mission statements, vision statements, they're not just sort of like feel-good ideas, that some like HR person came up with. These are ideas that modern companies, well-run companies, take very seriously because they understand the impact that they have. These are ideas that do have an impact. And if you want to establish a particular culture in your company, establish a particular direction, then in order to do that, you need to be very clear on what your mission, vision, and values are. And you need a system in place in order to communicate them and make sure that they're embedded in everything that the company does. And that's what a well-run company will do. So assuming that you want to work at well-run companies or you want to improve companies so that they're more well-run, you're going to want to know what these values are, what the mission and vision are. And so when you're interviewing with a company, know that the person interviewing is going to take these ideas seriously, and you should too. Yeah, that's the point that I wanted to make, but I think we have a question in the chat. To what extent do companies base their values on their customers' values, since companies usually use their customers' values to market their products? So that's an excellent question. Where do these values come from, right? And so I think that managers, the reason why managers perhaps made a shift from a shareholder viewpoint to a more stakeholder viewpoint. The reason why companies today are emphasizing what their values are, making it very clear not only to their employees what their values are and what their mission and vision are, but their customers as well, is because these are ideas that are important to them as well. And so I think that they are mindful of what values potential employees hold, what values potential customers hold, so they can align their values to them, because that's an effective way of being able to effectively recruit employees and be able to generate customers. So yeah, I mean, a lot of sort of founding members, founding teams, and a lot of this will be established by founders. Obviously, COCA-COLA is a very old company, so the founders are no longer there. But this is the kind of statements that will be established by founders, and founders will often have their own vision of, or their own ideas on what the mission, vision, and values should be. But it should align well with the kinds of employees that they want to recruit and the customers that they want to acquire, because if there isn't that alignment, it's going to be a challenge. And so I think well-run companies are very mindful of what their customers' values are. Yeah, so excellent question. So moving on, do we have any other further questions while we move on? You're welcome. So here I brought up Baruch College's mission and vision statements. And so the mission statement, hopefully this slide really clarifies what the distinction between a mission statement and a vision statement is. So the mission, what business the organization is in. And here, Baruch College says they provide an inclusive, transformational education in the arts and sciences, business, public and international affairs to students from New York and around the world, and creates new knowledge through scholarship and research, right? So the mission statement has to make clear what business the organization is in. And I think in this mission statement, they make clear that they're in the business of education, which is what we're doing now, and they're in the business of scholarship and research, which is what I do when I'm not teaching a class. And their vision statement, and the vision statement, just to remind you, and this is sort of the definition that I'm using from that Harvard Business Review article. A vision statement is what the organization wishes to be like. And for Baruch College, they say, through excellence in teaching, scholarship, research, student outcomes, and community engagement, Baruch College will amplify its established leadership in public urban education. So what is it that Baruch wishes to be? They wish to be an established leader in public education. And it's through excellence they believe that they're going to achieve that. So I think that this slide hopefully does a good job of clarifying the difference between the two, and I included sort of the definitions of each, or the important parts of the definition of each in orange text. So hopefully that helps. All right, and I think we're going to end here. This is the final slide. And this really sort of duplicates what we already went through. But the main idea, and this is just to further drive this point home, is that there are three types of planning for the three levels of management, right? So top management, as I already mentioned, they're going to be responsible for the strategic planning. Middle management, and these are functional managers, product line managers, department managers. I didn't really go over the definitions of different types of managers, but your textbook does do that. Middle managers, they will do what's known as tactical planning, and tactical planning is implementing the policies and plans of top management. So you can see how each of the plans are linked from one level to the next. And middle management in their tactical plans, they will take a 6 to 24-month time horizon. And then those plans will determine the operational plans, which are carried out by the first line managers. These are team leaders, unit managers, et cetera. And these are really like the daily tasks of non-managerial personnel, right? And so, I don't know, if you think about Baruch's, they're developing a plan for us to return to their actual campus. And one of the things that first line managers will have to figure out maybe is who's going to be responsible, shooting everyone's forehead with that infrared light to determine, what their temperature is, right? So, these are the things that the daily tasks of non-managerial personnel that an operational plan will actually sort of spell out and describe. And so that is your introduction to the planning process. It begins with the mission, vision, and value statements. It determines the strategy. From the strategy, we're able to develop our tactical planning and operational planning. And that's sort of how a big picture view of how organizations are managed. And in the second part of this, I am going to describe the actual process of setting goals. But we'll wrap it up there. It is 5:15, so we're right at about an hour, which is my goal. So does anyone have any questions? We do. We have a birthday, by the way. So happy birthday to Diana. I don't think it would be appropriate, but normally I would sing you happy birthday. Maybe we'll do that for another time. We'll see how the semester progresses. Probably won't be any singing for you, unfortunately. I think she should get extra credit. Yes, excellent points. I want to be fair though. So there will be extra credit though. So this is another thing we're going to be talking about in the future. My decision on attendance and opportunities when you take the midterm exam, but we'll talk more about that in the future. Yes, of course, it's everyone's birthday. So if it is your birthday, happy birthday, Gabriella. Certainly if I'm giving out extra credit, I would not be surprised if it was everyone's birthday. Yes, happy birthday to all of the Virgos. Yes, so thanks again, everyone. If you have any questions, I will stick around for a couple of minutes. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Have a great week. Thank you. Have a great day.